All right, so part three now. So the internal rate of return, there is some interesting things associated with, and it is used at times. Okay, but let me just show you this example why it does have problems. Here's four projects, A, B, C, and D, and you'll notice that notice for A, all the negative cash payments are here, right? And then there's a positive, so there's only one sign flip in the cash payments. Look at B. B, there's two sign flips. Look, negative to positive, and then back to from positive to negative, right? C has basically positives before the negative, okay? That's a problem. Even though there's only one sign flip, that could be a problem. And look at D. D, again, has two flips, okay? Everyone see that? So if we look at those graphs, it should show, you should see that A is the only one that's valid. They all will have a 20% internal rate of return as we plot them, okay? So the internal rate of return is valid only if the project has a positive net present value for every discount rate below the internal rate of return, okay? So here's the four graphs. Notice here's everything, here's 20% for A, B, and C. D has none. And if you look at the red curve, the blue curve for A, this has the only net present value less than the internal rate of return. So this is the only one you would do. But this is why it's so important to plot these graphs. This is why it's so important to plot these graphs. All right, so again, here's another example from your book, an alternative. And here's the projects again, right? Projects 1, 2, and 3, and here's the cash flows. Okay, parentheses means negative. So if you graphed each profile, okay, again, you can see how the three for project 1, 2, and 3 are. They all have the same internal rate of return here, okay. The only one that's basically positive though is project 1. You see the blue here? That's less than the net present value with a positive. The discount rate is less than the internal rate of return here, okay, and it gives you the positive net present value. The rest of these are negative. I hope everyone's clear on that. So so you see that right there again, all right? And then again, this one crosses over here. So the profile for project 1 crosses the horizontal axis at about 10%. And so they're all around, so I guess the graph wasn't that exact, but they're all around 10, 12, and 14. So there's they're a little different, but it looked like they were all around 10, all right? But in any case, the net present value for one is only positive for this guy right here, project 1. All right, so okay, so the other rule is called the payback rule, and we move away from internal rate of return now. And this is a subjective rule that says, well, if I get paid back within a year or two, I'm happy. But it doesn't take into account the way you can invest your money if you had the money, right away, right? So it's like your friend borrows $1,000 from you, and 2 years later, he pays you back. But in the meantime, you could have had that money up front and invested it. So it's very subjective, and you have to come up with a pre-specified length of time to accept the project. And the companies use it because it's, like they said, it's very simple, but it's got its drawbacks. So if you look at this example here, they all have to have a payback period of 5 years or less. And of course, they don't say how much your discount rate is. Would the firm undertake the fertilizer project under this rule? So if we look back, the project we needed a $250 million initial investment, and it was going to generate $35 million per year. The sum of the cash flows from year 1 to year 5 is 175 million, which will not cover the initial investment of 250 million, okay? In fact, it will not be until year 8 that you get your money back, right? So you can see you're positive here, but it took you 8 years. But you could have been investing money all this time, right? So this is where the payback period has a problem. Okay, so it's very subjective, and again, they wanted 5 years here, right? But it got paid back in 8, so they rejected it. But I wouldn't use this procedure at all. And here's another alternative example, and projects A, B, and C. With here's the cost, and here's the cash flows, and you got to determine the payback period for each. And you can clearly see by the simple math here, it's 3.2 years for A, 4 for B, and 4.29 for C. And depending on what they consider their acceptable payback period, one of these or none of these or all of these may be okay. But in any case, it's something that really should not be used. And as I was saying, it ignores completely the payback rule, the cost of capital and time value of money, and it ignores any cash flows after the payback period, which may be great, right? And as they say here, it's got an ad hoc decision criterion. It's very subjective. Okay, I got to keep taking a sip of coffee, if you don't mind. Okay, so mutually exclusive projects. The term mutually exclusive, let me make sure everyone's clear. It means out of all the projects, you could choose one among all of them, okay? Choosing the one you want the most will eliminate the other ones, okay? So you choose one among the others. So the rule is you would select the project with the highest net present value. That's if you had mutually exclusive projects. And the internal rate of return says, well, you would select a project with the highest internal rate of return. But again, this could lead to errors, okay? So again, it's always safe to use the net present value function and eliminate the internal rate of return. So mutual exclusive projects, again, are one of many, and you only pick the one that you like. So for instance, if you were going to remodel your kitchen and your bathroom, you only had enough money to do the kitchen, so you would only do that and not the bathroom. It's mutually exclusive. Okay, so here are a couple of projects. A small commercial property is for sale, and because of the location, you believe a student-oriented business would be successful. And you have a bunch of possibilities. It's either going to be a bookstore, a coffee shop, a music store, or an electronics store. And the initial investments are shown here. And here's the cash flow, okay? The different cash flow for the first year. And here's the growth rate and the cost of capital. And the question is, which one is the smart one to do here? All right. So assuming each one lasts forever, it's ad infinitum, or it goes on as a perpetuity, right? Indefinitely. We can compute the present value of the cash flows from each as a constant growth perpetuity. So the net present value of each project is shown for each: the bookstore, the coffee shop, the music store, and the electronics store. Okay? So all the alternatives have a positive net present value, right? You can see that. But because we only can choose one, obviously the coffee shop has the largest net present value. So we would go with the coffee shop in this case. Okay? So this is a mutually exclusive project saying, well, we can only do one. Alrighty. I will get on to part 4 later.